Hello, hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so excited to talk today about marketing and how to balance your writing and your marketing. So just let me know in the comments so you can hear me okay. And we are going to move forward with this presentation because it is so very important that you learn as good as you can. Thank you so much, Melissa. How to balance your marketing and your writing, because we're not just balancing those two things. We're also balancing our lives and we're balancing our joy and our families and our health and all of these other things. And it's so important to think about balance and to act with intention. So I'm going to be sharing my screen with you guys today. And let's see. All right, Google Chrome, and I'm going to present slideshow. Okay, hopefully we are good to go and you can see my slides just fine. So if you are not familiar with me, I know many of you already know me. I already saw some chat there of people that are in our Heart Breathings community, but I am the indie author of 27 full-length novels, and I have been publishing my own books since 2010. And here's just an example of some of my books. This is my best-selling series, The Shadow Demon Saga. So I have been around the indie world in order to, be learning about this kind of stuff and trying to figure out balance and trying to figure out even, there was less marketing in the beginning. There were no Facebook ads and things like that. And it has taken time and things begin to shift. So balance isn't necessarily something that you learn once and then forever. Balance is something that you constantly have to search for, and you constantly have to reevaluate what's working and what's not working. But just to show you some of my expertise in this area, for those of you that are not familiar with me, again, my name is Sarra Cannon, and this is just a sunburst. If you're not familiar with Scribe Count, this is my total sales as of, I think, February this year. I didn't have time to make a brand new one, but each one of these is a different retailer. So the gold is Amazon, and then Google Play is the blue, and so on. If you zoom in, you can see at the bottom that the total I've earned as of earlier this year in my indie publishing career has been over $1.2 million. And so I have a lot of success with this. However, a lot of people, when you see this number, and I put kind of here just because there are some sales that aren't counted in Scribe Count because of Barnes & Noble account. But back in the day, I had to learn basically how to balance. And I decided for myself that I was not necessarily going to be someone who my strengths were going to be like taking out a bunch of ads, doing a lot of networking, spending a lot of time on Facebook. Like that was just not going to be my way, because I wanted more than anything to just do the writing. And so I chose to spend the majority of my time writing. And a lot of times, if you see that $1.2 million amount, you will find out these days that some people are spending $600,000 out of that 1.2 in order to take out Facebook ads and things like that. That's not the case with me. I am not exactly sure how much I've spent on advertising in my entire career in terms of actual marketing ads, but it's maybe in the range of like $15,000 or $20,000 over the last 12 years. And that is because I decided that I was going to focus more on the books and community, but that's not the way that everybody wants to run their career. And so a lot of times when we're talking about how to balance writing and marketing, we're talking about, like, when people talk about it, they're talking about like just generic terms. But really, if you want to learn for yourself how to balance marketing and writing, you need to start thinking about yourself as an individual, because some people don't necessarily want to write as many books, or they don't want to have a community. Some people don't want to have to take out Facebook ads like me. So I want to really drive home to you today that this is going to be something that you get to tailor to how you want it to be. So what we're going to talk about is what are the things that we're looking at when we're looking at balance? What are some of the fundamentals that you need to understand about marketing versus writing when you start publishing your books? And what are some practical tips for how to design your own personal marketing strategy and how to find that balance for yourself? So the modern writer in today's day and age is asked to be a lot of things. So we're asked to be ad specialists, right? AMS ads, Facebook, BookBub ads, taking out newsletter ads. We're supposed to know how to do all of that. And we also have to be professional copywriters, because there's one thing to write your books, but it is another skill entirely to be able to write your blurbs. Anybody else struggle with blurbs? You could throw a hand up or put a heart in the emoji. I see lots of hands coming up. Writing blurbs, writing taglines, writing Facebook ads or newsletter is a different skill than writing a novel, right? So we have to be copywriters. We have to figure out those sharp, snazzy little, taglines and things. Then you may not think about it this way, but you also are asked to be the CEO of your own publishing company. So many writers I talked to, they knew when they were getting into the writing business that they were going to be writers. And they didn't realize that they were also signing up to be entrepreneurs. But this is why we're talking about marketing. And it's really not even just marketing. Like I said, it's all of these things. You were also asked to be graphic designers. Even if you hire someone else to make your graphics and to make your covers, it's still you in the end who is deciding whether or not that cover is the right for you. It's still a back and forth that you're directing your artist and saying, okay, I don't like this. I don't think this. And you're the one who has to tell them, okay, this is the type of cover, and you're directing that. You also are asked to be an accountant. Hopefully, eventually you'll be able to hire an accountant, but some of us start out doing all of those finances ourselves. And then we're also asked to be data analysts, that we have to look at what's working, what's not working, what's going on in the market, who has, what's the covers that are selling right now for young adult books, or what's the trendiest things. Like, we're asked to do that to be successful. Oh, and we're supposed to actually write books too, right? And have a life and be able to, enjoy reading a book now and then, or playing video games, or taking a rest and getting sleep. It's a lot to balance. So one of the main questions that I get asked a lot is, how much time should I spend on my marketing? And I'm sure that many of you, when you saw this topic, you were thinking, that's what I want to know. She's going to come on and tell me, like, I should spend, if I have a 5-hour day, I should spend 1 hour doing this, 1 hour doing this. That's not what we're going to do, because there is no one size fits all strategy, but I'm going to help you figure that out for yourself. So for most people, your books are your most valuable marketing tool. Just let that sink in for a minute, because so often we think about marketing as the newsletters, the ads, the collaborations with other people, the networking, but truly the number one most important thing for your marketing is your book itself. And we will talk more about this as we move on. But how much time you as an individual need to spend on your marketing versus how much time you need to spend on your writing is one of those kind of impossible to answer questions, because it depends on a lot of factors. So it depends on things like, how fast do you write? Because people who write faster maybe don't have to spend quite as much time on their marketing, but maybe they do, depending on what type of genre they're in, what kind of marketing you intend or want to do. And a lot of times we forget this too, that because we're the CEO of our business and we're running our business, we actually get to decide. A lot of times when we are thinking about the answers to these questions, we forget that we actually have the power to choose what's right for us. Just because somebody else tells you, oh, you must do this type of marketing, or this is how you need to do this, does not mean that it's true. And you get to be the boss. And so often we forget that because we feel like we don't know what we're doing. I know there's a lot of people that feel that way. So we think we have to do what other people tell us to do. I can see the hands raising. Yes, we think, well, I'm not an authority here, so I don't know. But the truth is, you actually have more power and insight into your marketing time than you realize. And we're going to talk about that today. It also might depend on how much overall time you have. Some people here have full-time jobs and they have kids at home, or they have a person that they're taking care of, or they have 3 young puppies in the house. Like, however much time you have is going to determine how much you should spend, because it's almost never a good idea to do no writing at all so that you can market all the time. You need to be doing both. And so if you have very little time, you might want to spend more time during certain seasons of your life focusing on the writing. And then during other seasons of your life, you go hard on the marketing. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that too. It's also going to depend on your budget, because if you're starting out and you're just independently wealthy and you have someone else supporting your dreams, then you might have a little bit more budget to spend on marketing and advertising, or you might be able to just not do any of it yourself and just hire someone else to do all of it. So then you can spend all your time writing. But not all of us are like that, right? Many of us start out with not a lot of money. My first cover art cost $50 because I just didn't have more than that to spend. So asking me to also go out and spend $1,000 on Facebook ads a month was just never going to happen. So I couldn't spend the time there because I didn't have the money to. It also might depend on your stamina as a writer. And what I mean by this is, let's say you have 3 hours a day to write. If you really can only focus on your writing for about an hour before you start to feel fatigued, or the words start to feel like you're just pulling teeth to get them out, then that is your stamina. And that is not a judgment to say like, oh, you should be able to write 3 or 4 hours a day. It's just, we're all built differently. And some of us have stamina to write for 5 hours in a day, and then we don't write at all tomorrow. But some of us maybe only write 30 minutes to an hour a day. And that's really all. Like, some of the best writers in history, they would just write a paragraph or something a day, and they would really spend a lot of time figuring out that perfect paragraph, and then they would not be able to write more. And so we're all built differently when it comes to stamina, and understanding your own personal stamina is important, because if you have that 3 hours, but only really an hour of it is going to be good writing, then why not spend the next 2 hours working on your marketing? Whereas somebody else who could write for the full 3 hours might want to do that. So it's going to depend on you as an individual. Your overall marketing strategy for your book. So this is what we're going to talk about quite a bit today as well, because if you go into the indie publishing without an overall marketing strategy, it is quite possible that what you will end up doing is just what you think everybody else is doing and what you think you have to do. And that is not always going to be the best strategy for you and your books and your strengths and your talents. So we're going to get into it. It also is going to depend on your individual goals, because if you have a goal of making as much money as possible, as fast as possible, you're probably going to want to spend some time on that marketing, right? And maybe you're going to spend more than somebody whose goal is just to develop readers and build a community over time and be able to write long term. So our individuals, there's no judgment there. It's just knowing yourself, and what you want out of this is going to determine in some ways how much time you want to spend on your marketing. So in other words, this very not perfect definition here is how much time you should spend on your writing versus your marketing is entirely up to you. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, Sarah, dang it, I wanted you to tell me exactly how much, but I am going to give you some guidelines here. But I wanted to put this in because I really, really wanted you to understand that there is no should, right? It's just what is right for you. And if you can begin to trust yourself and to know that what you're doing is what's right for you as an individual, you're going to be so much more powerful and confident as an indie writer. And the more you can go confidently on your own path, rather than letting everybody else or even your own brain tell you that you should be doing it this other way, you're going to be so much more successful. So remember that you're the boss. Remember that you have the power to make it the way that you want it to be. And in fact, with the right strategy in place, you can be successful with as little or as much marketing as you choose. I promise. It is true. It may not always seem true, but it's true. So a strategy is a plan of action or policy designed to achieve a major or overall aim. And that is what is going to determine how much time you personally spend on marketing versus your writing is your strategy. And we're going to help you start developing that today. But before we get into the 4 pieces of developing your strategy, we're going to just go over some of the basics that I really want you to know and understand. Number 1 is there's nothing to market without your books. So it's something that we often forget, but I have seen people have a great book release and then proceed to spend the next full year and a half of their lives pushing that book and pushing that book and pushing that book and feeling like, why am I not getting where I want to go? And I have wanted to reach through the computer screen and say, just write the next book, because there's nothing to market without a book. Right? So if you're sitting here right now and you're thinking, I really do want to understand this and I want to become an author, but you don't actually have a book ready to go yet, that should be your number 1 focus. Prioritizing your ideal writing and release schedule is going to be important. And what I mean by ideal is your ideal, not some ideal someone else told you about, but for you. What is your ideal writing and release schedule? Do you want to put out just a book a year and then spend more of your time marketing in between? Do you like the idea of, and are you capable of writing 4 or 5 books a year or 10 books a year? It is okay to embrace what is possible for you and what you really want your life to look like as a writer, and then figure out your marketing around it. But hopefully you will be wanting to release books on some kind of schedule, because the more books you have, the more marketing tools you have available as well. Make time, when we're talking about balancing time, to learn the fundamentals, because I can promise you one very, very important thing that I wish I could just get a megaphone out and shout this to the entire indie world, is that your marketing will be so much more easier and effective, and it will take way less time and money when your marketing is baked into the product and your presentation. Meaning that if you have the right cover for your genre, your book is fit right into the right category on Amazon or Google or wherever you're publishing, and the book itself is where it's meant to be, you're targeting the right readers, and the blurb is really good, the book is really good, then you're going to have an easier time selling that book, marketing that book. Your ads will be more effective. Your time spent collaborating with other people and networking will be more effective than if you have a cover that doesn't really tell people what this book is about. You have some kind of book that you can't even explain what genre it's in, what category it belongs in. Well, it's kind of a mashup of 50 different things. It doesn't mean you can't write that, but it just means your marketing is going to be a lot easier if you are able to package up your book in a professional way. Also, this is just my opinion, but I really feel like it's more effective to focus on building one marketing avenue at a time. And then when that marketing avenue gets to a place that it's easy or it's automated, then you can move on to building the next one. So for example, if you are building up your website, focus on the website and get it at least to a place where it's, something people can visit and it's live and it's ready to go before you start also building a TikTok. And if you're on TikTok, don't start focusing all your time on I'm going to build a TikTok and I'm going to try to grow on Instagram and I'm starting a YouTube channel and I'm going to get my newsletter together all at the same time, because your marketing is going to literally overwhelm your entire schedule. And that can be really hard. Also, again, my opinion, but I see this happening all the time, that so many writers want to start lots of different pen names. My opinion in terms of basics when it comes to, if you're looking for balance, is don't start multiple pen names unless you write really fast and you can sustain 2 different careers. You have loads and loads of free time, or you have a massive budget so that you can outsource a lot of your work. I personally feel like it's so much more effective to start one pen name, get it going really well, start yourself down that path and start making money. Then you can start a second pen name that becomes a tool for your growth in the future. It's also true that your focus will be more on writing during some seasons and more on marketing during others. So here's some examples of publishing seasons that you're going to go through, because the balance is going to look different throughout the year. So you're going to be focused more on your writing time when you're on a deadline. If you have a pre-order coming up or you have an editor's deadline to meet, you're going to be focused a lot on your writing because it has to get done and there's a deadline for it. Between releases, when you have, you've had your launch, you've got everything going, your marketing's kind of automated, you're going to be focused on writing that next book so that you can have a new release. And then whenever you feel like it, right? Sometimes if you're a mood writer or a binge writer, sometimes we might just get an idea, or during NaNoWriMo or something like that, where we're like, okay, I'm going to write as much as possible. So during that time, like for me during Nano, my focus is almost solely on my writing, not my marketing. And that's okay. But there are seasons when your marketing is going to take more importance, like when you have a new release coming up. So once that book is done and it's on pre-order, or it's uploaded to the vendors, or it's in the hands of your editor, you're probably going to be focusing on a lot on marketing that launch, right? You're going to be reaching out to influencers, or you're going to be getting ads set up, or you're going to be setting up BookBubs, or whatever, but there will be new release launch marketing time. Also during special sales or events, like if you've got a brand new box set coming out, or you've got a collaboration with some other people, or it's Black Friday and you want to be a part of these special sales, like there are things that will come up throughout the year that it's like, this is a big event. So for example, every year in October, I do something called the Spooktacular, where I hang out with my fans and we have 13 days of giveaways and events. That entire month of October for me is heavily focused on the marketing and not so much on the writing. So just keep in mind when you're thinking about balancing that it's going to ebb and flow, that it won't always be equal between them. You're going to have some periods in your writing life where you're writing more and some where you're marketing more. So we're going to look at these 4 factors of success. So 1, your vision. It wouldn't be a Sarra Cannon talk without talking about your vision. Number 2, your strengths. 3, your challenges. And 4, your strategy. So vision. Oprah Winfrey said, create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life, because you become what you believe. So when you picture your ideal life and career as an author, what do you see? And I highly recommend that you take some time as you're trying to think about your marketing, your balancing, your launch, how you want to gain fans and build community. What do you see? Because it really is such an individual thing. And you could pull 100 authors together who have made 7 figures in their career, and you could ask them what their daily life looks like or how much time they spend on marketing. And you're going to get different answers for everybody, because different people have different priorities. And that is a beautiful thing. So if you can just drown out the noise, like block out the noise, and really sit and think about, what do you want your ideal life as a writer to be? What do you see? Do you see a lot of engagement with fans? Or there may be some people here on the call that are thinking, I don't really want to engage with fans too much at all. I want to be anonymous. I want to use a pen name. I don't want anyone to know it's me. And I want to just release my books, and I don't want to have to do social media. And then there are other people like me who are thinking, gosh, I just really want that community. I want the fans. I want to get to know them. I want to talk to them all the time. And that is a totally different approach. And both are valid, and both could be equally successful. So you get to choose. Some questions you might ask yourself are, why did you start writing in the first place? These questions will help you. And I will, I know that I gave Melissa access to these slides, but I did not ask her to give you guys a link because I didn't want a lot of people coming onto the slides while I was presenting, but I will make it available for you to grab these slides from the presentation so that you can go back through these questions. Why do you hope, or what do you hope to achieve through your writing? What do you want? What do you want to achieve? Some people want to, be able to quit their full-time job. They want to be able to buy their dream house. They want to be able to travel all the time. They want to be famous. Some people are just thinking, gosh, I just really want to have some people read my books, and that would be cool. And so we have grand dreams. We have humble dreams. We have joy-based dreams. Some people don't want to quit their job. Like, we all think that's the goal, right? But there are a lot of people who love their jobs and they don't want the pressure of having to support themselves with their writing. They just want to be able to write the books they love and have fun with it and go to conferences and get to know other writers. So what do you personally hope to achieve? What does your ideal day look like? And what does it feel like? Do you want to spend a lot of time on marketing, on community building? Do you want to do your own book covers? Do you want to spend a lot of time on blurbs and things like that? Do you want to just be able to write as much as possible and push the marketing onto someone else? What does it feel like to you? And then another question you might ask yourself is, what are the top 3 most important things when it comes to my writing career? You know, what is most important to you? If it's money, let it be money. If it's fame, let it be fame. But it might also be community, or it might also be just that I want to write the types of books I want to write. And that for you might be that you do want to have 5 pen names, right? And you are allowed to do that because you get to be in charge of this career. But the reason that we look at this in terms of your vision is that if you don't think about these things ahead of time, you will likely end up blindly following what everybody else is doing. And what becomes the biggest problem when it comes to this kind of thing is that when we follow other people, we often are not really leading ourselves toward our own personal ideal life and our own personal joy. And then we wake up 5 years later and we've spent way too much money. We've not written the books that we wanted to write because we spent way too much time working on Facebook ads and we're frustrated. Or maybe, I have writer friends that have given up entirely because their ads weren't going well and they lost money and they got too stressed, or they felt like they had to write so fast that they couldn't really write for joy anymore. And this stuff is important, right? It's not just a career, it's our lives. And when you become a writer entrepreneur, it gets so entangled into your emotions and your growth as a human that it's important to really put your own individual goals up front and center. So that was the vision. Now let's talk about the strengths. Dr. Lucas Shalua says, success comes by strengthening your strengths more than improving your weaknesses. And this is something that, if you're familiar with Becca Symes, she talks about as well. Like, if we can lean into the places that we're really strong, we're going to see more effect from that than trying to learn and fix the things that we're weak at. Now, there are some basics that it's important to get to know and to understand. So we still need to be learning, but it's also important that we take a look at what our individual strengths are. As much as possible, what you want to do to be a successful indie is to stack the odds in your favor. And we talk about this a lot in my Publish and Thrive course, that published success is not about perfection. And we think it is sometimes because we think there's so much on the line here. I have to do it perfectly. It has to be just right. But it's really not. I have made so many mistakes. My newsletter was never a priority, and I regret that. I have made mistakes with my cover art. I have made mistakes in the past with my release schedule or how I did launches, and I still have been very successful. Publishing success is not about being perfect. It's about playing to your strengths. And just a side note, when I say strengths and challenges, this is not a judgment of you as a person, even though some of these things coming up might feel that way. Rather, this is in relation to common success vectors among indie writers. So I'll explain that a little bit more as we move forward. So potential strengths that you might have, any of these things will most likely be a strength when it comes to your indie career. Writing quality books quickly. And that hurts, I know, for those of you that are thinking, I can't do this, because I'm also one of those people. I'm right now not writing super fast, but right now we're thinking about strengths. So which of these do you relate to? And this is by no means an exhaustive list. This is just to get you thinking. So if you can write very good books fast, that's going to help you. If you're really good at analyzing the market and recognizing patterns, that is going to help you, especially when it comes to cover art and trends and tropes and what is currently like happening in the on TikTok, like, oh, people are really loving this kind of thing. And you recognize those patterns really early, that's going to help you. If you're really good at community building and people love to rally around you and you're a magnet, your energy is magnetic, that is going to help you in this career. If you're good at analyzing data and working with numbers, that will help you with advertising and your sales and your finances, and that will be a strength. If you're a talented storyteller when it comes to video, that is going to be a strength right now on social media as well, because even Instagram, which used to be our tried and true faithful, photo place, is now all about video. And I think it's only going to continue into the future. If you are really disciplined and you have a strong work ethic, that is a massive strength in this business. If you have a really large budget to outsource or to advertise, that's going to be a strength. Or you naturally enjoy writing stuff that's really marketable. If you have a great eye for graphic design, if you're good at networking and making friends with fellow authors, if you find stuff like complex email sequences and organizing your files and data easy, then that is going to be a strength. If you're really good at that copywriting and you write great hooks and taglines for your ads, that will be a strength as well. And it is a strength if you have unlimited amounts of time to work on your writing business. On the flip side, here's some challenges. So Joshua J. Marine said, challenges are what make life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes life meaningful. So often I see writers doing what they think they have to do rather than what they want to do, whether they're good at it or not. That's just my own little quote. And it makes me so sad to see people doing things that they don't want to do, or they're not good at, or they're forcing themselves to do. Like, especially when it's like, I'm not writing the books I really want to write because somebody told me I have to write this because it's really trendy right now. That can be a valid way to run your career, but it also is really valid. And I'm trying not to put any judgment in that, but I really hope that you will know that you can follow your heart and you can write the books you want to write, as long as you learn those fundamentals about how to package those books up. You can still write what you want and be successful. Potential challenges that you might face: writing slowly, easily frustrated by tech. I am ashamed to admit this, but in the early days of my career, when I was trying to put websites and things together, my husband was working full time. So I was trying to do this stuff on my own. And I had days where I literally just wanted to rip my computer out of the wall and throw it off the balcony, because I had a hard time figuring out the tech of how do I code this? How do I get WordPress to look the way I wanted? Super easily frustrated by it. This was not a strength of mine. If you hate spending a lot of time looking at numbers or data, that could be a challenge, because there are a lot of places in this career where we got to look at those numbers. If you're extremely nervous or awkward on camera, if you have no natural eye for graphic design, if you love to bounce around different genres and styles and you don't really have a focus of things that you really love, and you just are like, oh, I want to write a mystery, but I also want to write a romance and I want to write a fantasy, that is a challenge. If you have a really busy full-time job or 2 kids at home, or, any of those things that I mentioned earlier, you're a caretaker, or you have a chronic illness, that is going to be a challenge. If you have a limited budget, that could be a challenge. And I think that a lot of times when we think about our challenges, we think that, okay, these things are going to make or break us, right? How many of you saw this list or something on that list and it made you feel like, I can't do this, or this is going to be too hard for me because I'm not good at this particular thing? I definitely see some hands going up. I have felt the same exact way, because a lot of times when we look at people that are really successful, it feels like they're good at all of this stuff. And we see ourselves and we think, I write too slow. I'm never going to be able to write 15 books like my friend so-and-so, or I can't even figure out this email sequence. It makes me want to cry, or I've got a full-time job. There's no way that I'm going to have enough time I can barely find time to write my books. How am I going to find time to market? But let me encourage you from the bottom of my heart and tell you that a lot of these things are me right now, and I am still earning 6 figures a year, not because I'm different from you, not because I'm special, but because I have learned to lean into my strengths and find that balance. And I know that you can do it too. None of these challenges, other than I can't finish a book and I never will finish a book, as long as you can finish books, none of these challenges are going to hold you back from being successful, especially if you face them head on and you say, okay, I know this is a challenge for me, and I am going to develop a strategy that either works around this so that I don't have to do this stuff, or that leans so much on my strengths that is what is going to make me successful. Because I promise that all of these things can be overcome, and you can create your own great strategy and still be successful. And I also promise you that every author you see that is earning money, 6, 7 figures, 5 figures, whatever amount you see them making, has challenges in this career. Nobody's perfect. Nobody has it all figured out. Just sometimes when we see just the social media facing side of it, we think they do, but they don't. Everyone has challenges like this. Everybody does. Even 7-figure authors, who I met some at a conference recently, people earning 7 figures a year, which blows my mind. They have challenges like this. You can do this. This is where we get into strategy. Sun Tzu said, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Strategy matters. How you go into the career, how you go into the fight, how you go into the book sales matters before you even start publishing. And that doesn't mean that if you've already started publishing and you're not seeing the sales that you wanted, you can't change things. But it just means thinking about your strategy in order to find that balance is going to be your superpower. So let's take a couple of examples about strategy. Let's say this is Penelope Paranormal, and some of her strengths are that she loves paranormal romance and wants to write nothing but shifters all day, every day. It's her passion. She has a lot of fun with social media. She loves engaging with her community. It's really fun for her. And she has full-time work. She doesn't have a day job. She can work on her business all the time. But she has challenges. She has a very limited budget. She lost her job recently. She's working with just a very small amount of savings, very limited budget. She's also terrible with data and analysis. It totally stresses her out when numbers and formulas are complex. She can't really see trends easily. She doesn't really know what she's doing when it comes to book covers. Like, these are just not her things. But she's great with writing novels and not so great at writing short, snappy taglines. Copywriting, short forms, blurbs, these things are hard for her. So I'm going to present you with 2 separate challenges, and then you can tell me, I won't really make it a secret because it's going to be obvious which one's better, but we'll just kind of talk through. So strategy 1 is this leaning on her strengths or trying to make up for her weaknesses. Her first strategy is she's going to focus almost all of her time on writing new books in her shifter's passion genre. That's where the majority of her time is going to go. She's also going to spend the majority of her non-writing time just focusing on that social media, building that community, engaging with readers and fellow authors, and networking and building those relationships online. It's super fun for her. And then she's going to begin her marketing by utilizing things like free swaps and social media marketing and TikTok and things like that, because it's really fun for her and it doesn't cost her any money. So these all lean right on her strengths. But as someone who hasn't thought through their strategy or really looked at strengths versus challenges, some people might tell Penelope that the best thing, I forgot one more, that as her income grows, she plans to outsource her Facebook ads and blurbs and stuff. So once she starts making money, she's going to put it back into having other people do her covers, other people do her ads. But if she didn't have this strategy that leans so hard on her strengths, maybe she would look at other people and start thinking, oh my gosh, I really need to spend a lot of my time trying to learn how to use Facebook ads and analyze the data and numbers to increase my sales. Now, we already know that she isn't good at data. It frustrates her. We know she doesn't have a lot of money. So when you take someone who isn't good at analysis and doesn't have a lot of money, and you tell them that they need to spend the majority of their time working on Facebook ads and analyzing AMS ads and stuff like that, there are a lot of dangers with this kind of strategy. Even though there's a lot of people that will tell you, you got to do ads. There's no way you can be successful without ads. And the danger is, if she's spending more time on ads that she's not good at and doesn't have a lot of money to pour into, instead of writing new books, she has taken her most valuable marketing tool, which is more books and her time with her community, and she's put that on a shelf in order to do what somebody else said she should do. And what do you think is going to happen to her writing if she starts losing money because she's not really very good at this? It's going to stress her out. She's going to potentially have to go looking for a full-time job. And now she loses another one of her strengths because she can't spend as much time on her writing anymore. And this is what happens to so many authors. They focus on what other people are telling them they should do rather than focusing on what they're good at. Another thing she might do if she was watching other people is she might think, you know what, these shifters, I'm not getting enough traction fast enough. Maybe I need to write other stuff. Let me go check out these other genres. I don't really like mysteries, but maybe that's what I need to try. Let me see if something trendier breaks out. Instead of writing paranormal, everybody says I should be writing contemporary dark romance. Like, that's what's trendy right now. Well, is that really good for Penelope? She's so passionate about her shifters. It's so much more valuable for her to really hone in on that and like lean into the fun that she has with the genre that she loves. It may not be the trendiest, but there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of readers waiting to find her books, right? And if she takes some of that valuable time that she has and spends it on genres she doesn't even like writing, what is her career going to look like long term? Is she going to be happy? Is she really going to make more money? Probably not. And then maybe her other strategy is, okay, I got to take a lot of classes on newsletters and websites, and I got to fill in the gaps on all the tech that I'm frustrated by. Now, this might be something that she will want to do eventually, that, you know, she can lean into the things she's really good at. And then she can also spend some time trying to learn and improve her skills when it comes to newsletters or getting her website done and things like that. So those things can be important. But if she started out her career just focusing on taking a bunch of classes when she already doesn't have a lot of budget, she would be missing out on a strategy one that really could break her out into making a full-time income and living, which is focusing on writing as many books as she can in this one genre, very focused shifter genre that she loves, and spending time at social media marketing. That's all she needs. You don't have to do all these other things. And when you lean on your strengths, you can often be so much more successful faster. So for somebody like Penelope, a strategy of writing as much as she can in terms of joy and stamina will often be the best strategy, because the books become her number one marketing tool. Then with her excitement for her community and online interaction, she can organically build a fan base and network with other authors until her income grows enough to do outsourced paid marketing. So for somebody like this, I would say her strategy should be, she should spend the majority of her time writing, 2/3 or more of her time writing, and 1/3 of her time on social media marketing. And because we know her weakness is like, she isn't really good at pattern recognition or knowing what covers sell best, she probably will want to use some of that networking that she's going to do with other authors, and she's going to ask them for their opinion and get help from them, and then start to understand what covers sell best, right? Hopefully you can start to see from that example how once you create a strategy that leans on your strengths, and then you kind of try to make up for your weaknesses, but you don't lean in, you don't go all in on your weaknesses and the things that you're not good at or your challenges. Let's do another one. So this is Faith Fantasy. Her strengths are that she's an exceptional writer in a genre without a ton of indie competition, like high fantasy, epic fantasy. It's not as much indie competition. She also has a really healthy budget to work with from the start of her career. She's got money in savings. She can spend it. She has a background in graphic design and marketing, so she understands the basics. She's really good at telling what's going to look good. She can create great graphics for social media, and she catches on really easily when it comes to data and analysis. So she can analyze that market. She can come up with great packaging for her stuff, and she can tell what ads are working and stuff like that because she's good at numbers. But her challenges are she has a full-time job and she's got a baby. She has very little time. And she's trying to write really long books. So that's a challenge. She writes long, complex fantasy novels that take her a whole year to write. She's shy. She does not like to be on camera or social media. And in fact, she doesn't know if she wants anyone to know her real name at all. So for Faith, if she's leaning into her strengths, her strategy might be to focus on gorgeous branding. So just like beautiful website, beautiful covers that are perfect for the genre, social media branding, like everything's going to look amazing. And she makes these great photos, great reels, stuff like that. She allows herself the time she needs to write the complex books she's good at. Now, I will add to this that she also knows that it may take her a few years and a few books before she starts to make a lot of money on it, but she's leaning into her strength of writing the complex books that she's really talented writing. She also takes some courses on how to do ads and spends a good amount of her budget on beautiful, catchy ads to keep her sales high. Remember, she's good at that data. She's really good at creating graphics. She's good at writing those snappy taglines. So leaning into that allows her to take the time that she needs to write the books. And she focuses a lot on keeping her book sales going by taking out ads a lot. Strategy 2 would be her doubting her own strengths, because everybody says you have to write faster and all of these things, and leaning into her challenges. So strategy 2 is she stops writing what she loves most in order to write trendier books. People are like, epic fantasy doesn't sell. It's taking you too long to write. If you wrote cozy mysteries, you could write them, 5 a year. So she just stops writing what she loves. And she's like, okay, I'm going to try to write these trendier books. She spends the majority of her time starting social media accounts and trying to figure out Reels and TikTok where she's the face of her own company, right? She's like, really doesn't want to be on social media in that way. She doesn't want her face. She's awkward on camera. She's really shy. And she pushes herself to spend a lot of time on social media trying to like hype up these cozy mysteries that she's writing. For somebody like Faith, it makes so much sense to focus her marketing efforts on paid advertising, since she's really good at the data, the graphics, the marketing copy. And since she needs more time to plot and write, she may spend less time actually writing and more time bringing in those new readers. However, to have her focus on like video, social media, or to have her stop writing what she's really good at to write something she thinks she can write faster might be a big mistake. So for somebody like her, I would say like split your time in half the time writing, half the time managing your ads. And then when you have a deadline, she's going to be writing more. And when she's got a launch, she's going to be focused all on marketing. But it's so important to know that there's no one size fits all approach to balancing marketing versus writing time. But instead, if you focus on learning the fundamentals of success, evaluating your own personal strengths and challenges, just like we did with Penelope and Faith, if you can evaluate, okay, what am I actually good at? And then what are the things that I'm afraid will hold me back? You can begin to craft a strategy that focuses on your strengths. And I also encourage you to think about your own goals and your own feelings, because you are an individual and you are amazing just as you are. You don't have to do what someone else says. You don't have to do things you don't want to do. You can create a strategy for yourself that works. Take a look at your total available time so that you make sure the writing is still getting done, right? This is important too. And then craft a strategy that maximizes your potential. Don't lean into your weaknesses. If you can learn new skills, learn the fundamentals, that's going to help you. But writing the books and focusing on what you're most good at, which could be ads, could be short, snappy copy, it could be the covers, whatever your strengths are, lean into those. And that is it, you guys. I know we've got some questions coming up. Here is a look at my social media stuff, but more than anything, I'm just going to stop this share. Oops. Okay. Got to find my Zoom again. There we go. More than anything, I really hope that what you get from this is that it really is possible for you to create and craft a marketing writing balance that is perfect for you as an individual, and to understand that it will ebb and flow. And maybe 5 years down your career, when you have more money or other things like that, you can then shift it to where, okay, now I'm ready to spend a little bit more time on my advertising. But you don't have to be doing a bunch of things that don't lead into your strengths, right? And you can understand and believe, I promise you, that no matter what challenges you face right now, you can still be extremely successful and you can still have the life of your dreams as an author. Okay, I saw some questions here, so I'm going to start pulling these up. So Courtney says, what's the best way to create a realistic schedule versus our dream schedule? So it is, if you haven't been in the Heart Breathings community, come check out my 90-day quarterly Kanban stuff. But one of the best ways that you can create a realistic schedule is to truly just sit down and look at the time that you have and start thinking through how much can you actually get done in the time that you have. And building in buffer time for yourself is also super important, because when we have this dream schedule, a lot of times we're forgetting that, oh yeah, I have migraines once a month, or I forgot that I don't get home from work and immediately start working on my novel. I need about 30 minutes to kick my shoes off and change, right? So think through your actual schedule as you do it, and then create that realistic schedule based on your true health, your true activities. And then the other part of it is taking a look at the projects that you're planning to do and work on, and estimate, truly trying to get a realistic estimate of how long that will take you. So, if you say, I'm going to work on my Facebook ads for 30 minutes, then pay attention if you actually end up sitting down and always working on them for 2 hours, right? That is part of how you create a realistic schedule. Belinda, I work full-time, as I'm sure many others do here. Do you have advice for managing writing, marketing, and working full-time? This is one of my biggest concerns as an aspiring author. Yeah, so I think that it feels like we have to do all the marketing things, right? But when it comes to the marketing, when you have a full-time job or you have limited time, what I would personally do is I would look at how much time in a week, for example, instead of taking it day by day, how much time in any given average week can I spend on my writing career outside of my full-time job? And give yourself a number. So let's say it's 10 hours, because you're going to work some on the weekends and a couple hours every day when you get home. How much of that time do you personally need to spend on your writing to hit your publishing goals for the year? So if you know that you can get the career that you want writing 1,000 words a day, and it takes you about an hour to write 1,000 words, then you would take 7 days, and that goes 7 of your hours. So that leaves you with 3 hours left to do your marketing. Then when it comes to fitting as much into that marketing time as possible, this is where you need to lean on your strengths, and you need to say, okay, am I going to be focused on community building? Am I going to be focused on my newsletter? Am I going to be focused on my social media? Or am I going to do ads? And often when we try to do all of those things, that's when our time doesn't really get used appropriately or efficiently. Instead, I would highly recommend, especially when you have limited time available, to go through and say, okay, right now I'm going to focus on getting my newsletter together. I'm going to create the things that I need to, the newsletter swaps, and I'm going to focus solely on that until it's automated and it's finished. And then when that project is done, now you say, okay, now I'm going to start to do a few ads. And then when those get automated, you start adding in something else. But I think we feel like we got to do all those things. And if you just don't have time, what's going to happen is you're going to do all those things just a little bit, and they're not going to make any, they're not going to actually move the needle. So think, what is the thing that I can do that's going to lean into my strengths? Is it community building? Is it taking out ads? Is it, whatever it is for you, like we talked about? And I'm going to lean into that until I have a system in place, and then I can move on to another piece of the puzzle. Courtney, how do we create a well-balanced strategy if we have more challenges than strengths? Everybody has, even if it's just, this is your one strength, is that you're really, really good at writing young adult fantasy, then you lean as hard into that as you can. And if your challenges are so stacked up that means it's 1 hour a day and that's all you have, and it's not even every day, it's 5 hours a week, I would spend it working 100% on those books, because that is your biggest challenge, or that's your biggest strength. And I would lean into that as much as possible. And if you are able to start publishing, you're going to start to see how those challenges start to fade away, because you'll have a few things on that list of challenges that's like, okay, but I do have a couple of things now that are published. I'm starting to bring in a little bit of money. Now I can outsource this other thing. And you'll start to see some of those challenges start to disappear. But figure out what that strength is for you, whether it's 1 or 2 or 5. And it's also possible, Courtney, that you don't see your strengths appropriately. Maybe you see challenges because you're scared, but you actually have a lot of strengths you don't even realize you have. So maybe go home after, or I guess you're home, but maybe take some time after this presentation and start thinking, okay, what are my true strengths and how can I lean into those as much as possible? Priyanka, is it normal or even productive to have projects in different styles? I'm currently working on my dark fantasy book series, but I'm also interested in putting out a smaller episodic series bundle for which I have some material in its raw first draft stage. Is it normal to switch between projects throughout the year, especially when you're supposed to take breaks between drafting and editing for fresh perspective? So first of all, I would throw out the supposed to. A lot of people don't take breaks. That's just like an old belief, and I don't think that is true. Actually, a lot of people like me, if I take time in between, I actually end up more frustrated. I like to jump straight into my edits right away. So do whatever feels natural to you and just let go of the supposed to stuff. Also, a lot of people work on different projects throughout the year, and that's totally fine. Like I'm working on 2 projects at the same time right now, and that's fine. But if it all depends on your goals. So if you're working on a fantasy book series and that's coming out at the rate that you want it to come out, I wouldn't like hold off on that series so you can write this other thing unless creatively you need that. And if that is the case, then you need to maybe potentially like up your marketing so that you can take a break from that other series. But yeah, you can work on multiple things. And sometimes that can be the thing that helps you creatively continue to keep marching forward, right? So yeah, I think it is normal, and I think it can be very productive. Where it starts to become, I think, a weakness or a challenge is when you're writing in multiple genres and you don't really write very fast, because then you really can't publish any one specific focused series fast enough for readers. And that becomes, it doesn't make it impossible, but it makes it more difficult. So Stacy says, what if you don't know your strengths? What I would personally say is, if you have someone that is a critique partner or a friend or anything like that who can bounce ideas off with you, because I have a feeling that if you're struggling to figure out what your strengths are, it's just because you don't see yourself clearly. And so being able to sit down and talk with other people is going to be helpful. If you just tell them your situation, or if they already know you, other people are going to start to be able to mirror those strengths back to you. If you are, somebody who just, you don't have a lot of writer friends and you don't have a lot of support in your home for your writing, then start journaling it for yourself. Like start talking to yourself and see what those strengths start coming out. And if you just can't figure out what your strengths are going to be, then what I would do is I would list the challenges, but then also I would list what are the things that I'm most passionate about. Even if you don't feel like it's a strength yet, what am I most passionate about? What do I love more than anything? What is it I want about this career? And start there. Because if you know that, like, I love writing this genre or these couple of genres, but I'm just not great at it yet, but I know I have the potential to be, then you start focusing on how can I take those passion things and turn them into strengths? Because all that is spending the time to learn how to be the writer that you want to be. And that's where you focus to begin with, because everybody has strengths. It's just a matter of uncovering them. And a lot of times you can start with what matters to you most and what are you most excited about? Anna L says, when we are on a tight budget, but still at the start of our journey, do you think we are more open to try and take a lot of classes, like marketing classes, writing classes, for example, because we're less confident, but that it's not always necessary because we should try to focus on our strengths? Or do you still think it's necessary in some ways to take classes to improve ourselves? So I definitely, when you're on a tight budget, I definitely think it's good to be choosy about where you spend your money in terms of what you need to learn. So if, for example, you get really frustrated by data and analysis and numbers, you might not want to take an ads class because you're going to be spending your money trying to strengthen a challenge that is already really frustrating for you. Whereas you might want to spend your time instead, or your money instead, taking a fundamentals of self-publishing class from someone who is really successful and is a good teacher of it, because then you're going to learn a wide variety of tools that will help you, rather than just focusing in on something that you already know is really hard for you that you don't want to do. So having the knowledge and learning the skills is important, but I would focus on those fundamentals first, and then, start working on strengthening your strengths rather than focus on where your challenges are and trying to lean in on those. Noelle, not a question. I wanted to let you know that when I started self-publishing, I literally watched everything you've done. Oh my gosh, you've been a massive part of my publishing journey. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Noelle. That means so much. I wish that we had time for all of the answers here, or all of the questions, but we are right at the top of the hour and I don't want to take up too much time. So thank you all so much for being here. If you have more questions, feel free to either email me or DM me over at Instagram, or leave a comment on my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel is just youtube.com/heartbreathings. And really and truly, if you want to come join our community, we have two places. So Melissa put the Indie WriterFest, put the YouTube channel there. And there's so much great information on the channel itself that might help you begin to know where your strengths are, but also joining our community of writers, Heartbreathing's writing community. There's more than 5,000 authors that are in that community, and we sprint and write together. But it's also a great place to start talking to people about, what are my strengths? What am I capable of? Where can I start working, and things like that. So that is all we have. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much to Melissa for inviting me to be a part of this amazing weekend and with all of these authors. And thank you all for being here. I super love you. I'm cheering for you. And if you want to continue chatting, send me your questions through email or social media, and I will talk to you there. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.